Welcome to Sincerely Bhakti. My name is Bhakti Lata, and today I am joined by my dear friend, Shamala Kishori. She is a spiritual teacher in the Gainesville community, and I'm thrilled that she's joining us today. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Bhakti.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we are exploring today how all contradictions are resolved within the personhood of God. We are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, commentary by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, reading chapter 7, verse 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O son of Kuntī, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. This 7th chapter is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, and Krishna is explaining to his friend Arjuna about all of the knowledge that is to be known in the universe, which is a tall order, but Krishna is going to deliver on his promise that he is now going to tell Arjuna all knowledge that there is to be known. And so he starts by explaining the constituents of the universe, the material universe. He talks about the 5 elements and then the 3 subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, false ego. So these are all material, but they do rest in God. So they are emanations from God. But then he talks about the marginal energy, which is the living entity. And it's called marginal because the living entity can either choose to be absorbed in material consciousness, in matter, or in spiritual consciousness, in spirit. So it's marginal because there's that choice, and we are eternally conditioned. We are eternally possibly going from one to the other. Then Krishna is explaining the absolute truth, God himself, spirit. So he begins this section by saying there is no truth superior to me. And then he begins by saying, I am the taste of water. He's saying how you can identify him within this universe. So it's incredible that he is now sharing that even though this is material, you could say water belongs to the material universe. He is saying, I am still present there.
I was touched to think how Krishna is so kind that he's making himself accessible to everyone. He's in non-threatening ways. Like, okay, you don't want to necessarily approach me as the ultimate truth yet, or you feel uncomfortable with that. Here you go. You have other ways to connect with me when you're drinking a glass of water, when you're out in nature, and so on. So it's a very beautiful section, very inclusive for anyone, any spirit soul who wants to move upward in their journey.
Absolutely. It's beautiful that he starts off by saying, I am the taste of water, because Srila Prabhupada gives a lecture on this particular verse in 1966 in New York, saying that every living being has to drink water, everybody, that you cannot really survive if you don't drink water. And so if you just have the consciousness that this is God, then you are connecting to God, that he is there in the water. And Prabhupada says in this purport that the attractiveness to water is based on the purity of it. So how pure is this water? And then I'm attracted by the taste of it. And that is God himself. What's beautiful is that he's saying it's attractive, right? That this water can be attractive. And so if we want to be attracted to God, that we can understand that the understanding of God as a person, and that he has these 6 opulences and one of them is beauty, and that Krishna himself, the word Krishna means attractive.
Yeah. So all of the other, like of the 6 qualities, all of them are something we can be attracted to in this world. Even someone's very renounced or someone's very strong, and so they're all like aspects of beauty because we're being drawn in, attracted to Krishna, the ultimate all attractive person, which is what Krishna means.
Right.
So, yeah.
So even though the understanding the taste of water is an impersonal understanding, right? You were saying that, I can still connect to God in nature, or some of these non-threatening ways you could say, oh, I'm not attracted to a religion per se, but let me just appreciate the sunset or the taste of water. These are all attractive aspects of God, and they're so-called non-threatening, but at the same time, they are impersonal, right? That understanding the energy of God, this taste of water. But Prabhupada says in this purport that, you know, if we were to appreciate the impersonal aspect, it's like, oh, this is the taste of water. But if I can understand that he is kindly supplying tasty water to quench man's thirst, that's a person. He is personally supplying water to quench my thirst, then he's a person. And so there's those two aspects, and Prabhupada says there's no contradiction. They're actually both just as beautiful and just as valid.
I find it so profound and very comforting, because there's many times in my experience where I interact with people who are very spiritual, very pious, and yet they're uncomfortable with the personhood of God, and they feel more comfortable in impersonal modes of meditation or practice. And so when I heard that, it reminded me of this other statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, a purport that Prabhupada wrote in second canto, chapter 4, text 13. In the purport, Prabhupada said, since the Lord is very kind to everyone, the impersonalists who accept bhakti as the means of merging in the existence of the Lord in his impersonal Brahmajyoti are also awarded their desired destination. And then he goes on to say that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is this incredible scholar of the bhakti tradition, he actually says that both the impersonalists and the personalists, the devotees and the impersonalists, are both paramahamsas, which means like swan-like personalities. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that both of them, they're transcendentalists, and they have nothing to do with the inferior material nature full of the existential miseries of life. So again, both of these things I found very helpful in interacting with those, finding that commonality, that common ground. Here, we're both connecting to God, but just in a different way, in a different, slightly different way.
Yeah, what a beautiful verse, and what a beautiful harmonizing these understandings of God. And when you said that word Paramahamsa, which means a swan-like personality, I was thinking that the swan is glorified, at least in Vedic scriptures, as being able to seek the essence. In a very mystical way, in the Vedic understanding, the swan can extract milk from water because it's able to extract the essence. And when we pair that idea with this verse, saying that you can experience God within the taste of water, and you can also experience God by understanding God has supplied me with this tasty water, both are swan-like, both are seeking the essence. So there is no difference that Prabhupada's saying. They're, in many ways, they're the same. They're both seeking the essence, and the essence is God.
Wow, yeah. It's also encouraging in my own personal life that if there are days or times where I feel disconnected from the personhood of God, if I feel like, oh, that's just a little beyond what I can do right now,
Yes.
then I can find ways to connect. Okay, here's a glass of water. Let me appreciate that aspect of God. So it makes it doable when we're struggling as well, like in our own lives. It's not just talking about a category of people out there that impersonal. It's like I go through times in my life where I feel more impersonal than other times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As soon as we put the labels that you're an impersonalist, I'm an impersonalist, no, we all have these aspects within us. Prabhupada emphasizes in this in this purport that Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya Bheda and Abheda Tattva, which is simultaneous oneness and difference. So we've talked about how the personalists and the impersonalists are the same, but there is a difference also, right? This Bheda Tattva, but they are different.
I was reminded of the verse previous to this one, actually, which is Bhagavad Gita 7:7. And Krishna says, you actually mentioned it at the beginning, that Krishna mentions, no truth superior to me. There is no truth superior to me. Me, Krishna, the person Krishna. And although there is no difference, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously one and different, there is something unique and special about having that personal relationship with God. And Prabhupada didn't shy away from repeatedly reminding of us, or reminding the readers of Bhagavad Gita how important that is to work on that personal relationship. Because while there's no difference, there is something different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, because you could say, well, that's a contradiction. That's a contradiction that, oh, God's a person, but he's not a person. You're just contradicting yourself. But this doctrine of achintya beda abeda tattva, and achintya means inconceivable, right? That just by our material brain and mind, if I can just wrap my head around it, it's not possible to achieve that. And it's not a cop out by saying, well, you can't conceive of it anyway. So I'm just going to tell you it's all it's all inconceivable anyway. So who cares? But no, that achintya means that with my material consciousness, I can't understand it. I have to raise myself up. If I'm a marginal entity and I can either be absorbed in material consciousness or spiritual consciousness, I cannot understand it in the material consciousness. I need to raise up my consciousness to spiritual understanding to even have any conception that God is a person and he's also not a person, that there's oneness and different. And if we are going to take the authority of Krishna as the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, and if we are going to accept anything in this book as truth, then we need to also accept when he says there is no truth superior to me, like Krishna. So oneness and difference, right? That they're both there, and we need to have spiritual consciousness to even understand.
One more final thought I had is how easy it is to be impersonal. It's much more comfortable. And even in our interactions with people in this world, it's easier to just keep our head down, looking at our phone, not making eye contact, not relating, because there's less effort. Similarly, in a spiritual path, it's easier to just sort of check out and just, oh, well, it's all one. It doesn't, I don't need to be threatened by a relationship. But actually, there's so much sweetness available in relationship. And we're just scared of it based on experiences we've had here in this world. However, spiritual relationships are completely their own category, incredible experiences.
It's a beautiful point, Shamala, that you're making, which is that personal relationships can be very scary. And Prabhupada even emphasizes that here in the purport by saying that those who are scared of a relationship with God, they're because the impersonalists are very much afraid of addressing the Supreme Lord Krishna by his innumerable names, then they vibrate the transcendental sound of Omkara. So Omkar is this sound representation of Krishna, but that's also Krishna as a person. And so we can still access him through that transcendental vibration of Omkara, knowing that even though you could say it's impersonal, still it's an emanation from Krishna himself. So sometimes, like you said, it's within all of us. Sometimes we're more in that space where it's a little bit vulnerable to connect with other people. And so we would prefer to go out in nature, or maybe vibrate the transcendental sound of Om, the Omkara. But sometimes it's like, that's where the deepest fulfillment of our soul lies, is the relationships with each other and also with God. So any other last thoughts you want to share, Shamala?
Just again, that Krishna is so kind. He's not threatened by people who need some distance from him. He's okay with that. He gives people their space, the souls that need that. And he doesn't have he's not egotistical in the way of feeling like, oh, they need to focus on me. He's okay with giving every jiva their space. And that shows how kind and generous he is.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Shamala. Those are our thoughts on this verse 7-8. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.